Welcome to the St. John Genealogy Project webcast. Today we will be exploring some lesser-known aspects of the St. John family, uncovering their fascinating stories and ancestral connections. Good morning, everyone. It looks like we have 4 people in the chat. So, who all is here today? If you could just comment in there and let me know who's here, I can tailor some of my discussion toward you. What I have on my screen right now is a Visio diagram that I am building about the haplogroup tree for the DePort St. John family. Alice is here. Let's see. Welcome, Alice. Anybody else want to announce their presence? Feel free. Okay, so basically what I did yesterday and over the last couple days is I went through FTDNA's haplogroup tree, and the crazy thing about them is they don't give you information all in one place. You have to go hunting for details. Brandy's here. Welcome, Brandy. So basically, this picture on the right I created because I screenshot their haplotree, and then I matched it to our people in the project who I know, and I hid their names so you guys can't see them. But then I also found, let me open this page up. FTDNA publishes these haplo pages. And here it gives the date of the haplogroup when they think it was created. And this became very useful because now we can link not only common ancestors, but we can see if they match up to when they think this haplogroup was created. So if we go to this, we can see that it says the Lydiard-Tregose group was created in 1550, and the Ireland, St. John and Nugent group was created circa 1600, and these two SMPs are siblings under this one right here, which is Margaret Beecham and her son, most likely Oliver. Because this group here is the Bledsoe and Sharmbrook group, and they don't have a second big Y, so that they're still showing circa 1250. So because we have 2 subgroups are here, 2 children, this one broke out. So now we can pretty much be certain that this is Margaret's son, Oliver. And I think that's pretty incredible because now, if we upgrade, let me show you this one. So if we upgrade this test kit right here to Big Y, what it will do is this is the Bledsoe test subject, and then the Sharmbrook one is also in this group. So and it's already at Big Y. So if we upgraded this test kit here, 415286, what it would do is it would create that second child right here. So it would create the child line for her son, John. So then we would have another group that would form, and then these 2 test subjects would turn into these turquoise. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So what I found looking at Alice's haplogroup was, let me go find that page. So I looked up Alice's, and it says Alice and Jeff's was formed in 1850. So obviously that would be born after John himself, so they're off a little bit. But if we assume it was created between 1760 and 1850, it's probably almost certainly the Markham surname. Because when I looked up Barton's haplogroup, it only goes back to 1200. So you're not forming a group with the Barton match. So that's pretty much, we can rule them out. Does that make sense, Alice? So if you were chasing Barton still, I would drop that one. And if you can get me the haplogroups for your Wallen matches, I can look that up and we can see if it's within the time frame of your 1850 haplogroup. Most likely it's not. So I'm thinking it's definitely the Markham. But if you have any that took big Y and match your brother, then maybe we can figure out which ones we can rule in or rule out. So for now, I'm going to say that the Barton haplogroup is not related to your paternal line, your direct line. It may go back really far. Yeah, okay. So you agree. The Barton match is a long time ago. So if we can find out what the Wallen and the Markham haplogroups are, we can compare them. Not chasing that. You're not chasing what? Not chasing Barton? I'm going to go on. I don't know if she's going to respond. Okay, so anyway, now that we have the haplogroup, we can rule out there. But what's interesting is, so I went ahead and updated the FTDNA Barton. Okay, so she's not chasing Barton. Yeah, good. So I'm going to remove the Barton. They can probably even leave the project if they want. We don't need them anymore, and they're not going to find any matches here that are related to them. But I went ahead and reorganized the Facebook group, or not the Facebook, Family Tree DNA groups. So we have the main Scandinavian origin matches. These are the two Swedens. So if we look at that image again, they show up here and here. That's those two. Excuse me. And then I created a group 10B for the descendants of Basing, Bledsoe, and Sharnbrook. And there are two testers for this group. And one is for Sharnbrook and the other one is for Bledsoe. So again, if we update this one to big Y, that should form a parent haplogroup for them. And it should narrow down what we're looking at for them. Then the George and the Richard group I have combined into descendants of Port St. John for Lydia Archegos. Okay, Alice has some comments. Once I found out that Barton guy was 1,000 years out, I stopped looking at him. Okay, great. Okay, so here is the Lydia Archegos group, and now we can see that it is all of these, and that's pretty significant group. So this combines the George descendants and the Reverend Richard, because he's their father, or George's father. So that's pretty cool, I think. And then what I've done is I've put Alice and Jeff's group here, because even though they are technically an MPE on the Y DNA, it is obvious that John's mother is one of Richard's children. So most likely George raised his nephew. I still need to get people to update their ancestry DNA so that I can show the proof of that clearly, because right now it's based on the fact that people have the wrong trees, and I recognized that they were claiming the wrong ancestors. But I went through the matches, and they're definitely the Richard line. So then we have the Martin and Abner MPE group, and this one I still need to determine who the paternal line is. Most likely it is Clayton or Claimer. I don't know how think it was Claimer. Clayton, Claimer, and then there was a lot of Jones Y DNA matches too. So if people can start searching their matches for Jones or Clayton or Claimer and seeing if they have any like fourth cousin, matches to those surnames, then maybe we can rule out or isolate the surname of the paternal line for this one. And then we have the first generation MPEs where the parents were the problem there. So we can ignore those two for our purposes. And this one, most likely the mother or the father is a Barton, or the mother is a St. John. But again, we won't know for sure until people start searching their matches, most likely for this Clayton. Actually, I should look up to see when his... I'll do that later. I'll look up when Clayton's haplogroup was created and see if that'll give us a hint. Okay, so the next thing that I was going to show you was that I created a family tree of the DePort St. John line. And so what I did was I pretty much determined that this line here, the 1150, was representing Adam DePort because he died in 13, I think. So this is most likely Adam DePort's haplogroup, and you can see that it directly drops from the Sweden group. So that's pretty interesting. So we can pretty much guarantee that the DePorts of Basing came from Sweden at some point. And then below that, the next haplogroup is 1250. So if you follow this down, so I created the family tree for the DePorts, and I'm going to drag this down with me. So let's see. We have Oliver's ancestors, Oliver that married Margaret Beecham, and I always say Bucamp, so I'm an idiot. But if you catch me saying that, I really mean Beecham, but I like to be phonetic. So here we get down to Oliver and Margaret, and they're still showing the 1250 haplogroup that formed somewhere around here. So where John of Basing split from his brother William of Fonmon, they formed this new haplogroup at some point in here. It's dated to 1250, so I went ahead and put it here under Henry. But it's somewhere in this group. We would need more test subjects at testing at Big Y to figure out exactly where this branched. But every time a sibling branch spins off, we can see it by this tree structure, and then by using the dates assigned to those haplogroups, we can get a pretty good estimate. So anyway, down here, we have Margaret's children. So we have John that leads to the Bledsoe and the Sharnbrook group. And then we have your guys' group over here in the darker green. So if we follow this down, let me pull this down. So we can see that we have this group in 1600 that formed off the Sharnbrook group. I'll try to trace the line. So it goes straight up to there, to DePorts of Basing. So it's a sibling to the Sharnbrook group. So it might actually, I think I put it down lower, but it might go up higher. I put it here because it was formed in 1600, but it may be a parallel group that comes off of here and comes down. So anyway, I don't know who they are. Their surnames were Kellum and Bryce, and it doesn't really matter to me who they are. But anyway, what I wanted to show you was if you follow the Sharnbrook and Bledsoe lines, the haplogroup stays at 1250. So it's not going to change until this person upgrades their big Y. And when that happens, most likely we're going to see a haplogroup form right here with John and Sybil. You're having technical difficulties. Is it my end or yours? Can you hear me okay? Those are really hard to see. Oh, okay, hang on. Well, I'm going to post this. I'll post it when I get it finished because I'm still working on it because, I have it. I have it down to Richard and your guys' MPE line. So I will publish this when we're done, and that way you guys can all have a copy of it. But what I'm trying to do is show where the dates are. So what I thought was interesting, let me see if I'm going to open this real quick. So the Ireland group is a brother to the Walter St. John group of Lydiard Jagots. And it's just like there's like 50 years difference between the haplogroups. So, let me scroll up here real quick. So what I determined was that Ireland group must split off somewhere around one of the second or younger children of John St. John and Lucy Hungerford. Waiting until the screen catches up. Alice, are you still having technical difficulties? So I'm going to make this a little bigger. I'm at 129 zoom now, so I don't know if that helps you see it at all. But anyway, that the Ireland Y-DNA matches, the deports that we have coming out of Tipperary area, they appear to be the descendants of Lucy Hungerford and John St. John of Lydiard Jagots also. So if Walters formed this one in 1550, then we would assume a brother, which is what the SMP is showing, that it's a brother line somewhere within that 50-year range. And it could be that this one formed off of a second, generation of that line or whatever. Because we don't have enough test subjects to know, any finer details. I'm not hearing anything back from Alice. I don't know if she's still having difficulties or not. So anyway, when I finish this diagram, I will post it, and that way everyone will understand where the SMPs are coming into play, or the haplogroups, and then it will show why we think Evelyn is a daughter of Richard, and then George's sister, and then the other children when I get them figured out. So I have Abraham, and the Abraham one, I need people to look at their matches, because the same people that are claiming 2 generations of Abraham, which would make Abraham a brother of Richard, which I don't think is possible. I think what they've done is they've created 2 generations of Mary Harris married Abraham and Dicey Harris married Abraham, and they've made that 2 generations. I think it's truly Abraham the father married Frankie Murray, and then Abraham the son married Dicey Harris, and that Abraham the father is the son of Richard. Let's see what Brandy says. I'm here. Okay. Did you have any problems seeing it, Brandy? Is it showing up okay? So there's like a 20-second delay between me and you guys receiving it, so it's kind of screwy for me to figure out if I should wait, stall, whatever. I'm just going to keep talking and watching the chat. So anyway, if you're here or watching this later and you descend from Abraham, I need you to try to... I think we can eliminate Mary Harris. I don't think she truly exists. I think she's a duplicate of Dicey Harris. Or this Abraham had 2 wives, because the Y-DNA matches are claiming Abraham, but they're coming up under, through lines is putting them under Frankie Murray. So that's the issue that I'm seeing there. So most likely Mary Harris and Dicey Harris have been split into 2 people, and Abraham has been split into 2 people to make those generations work. And this is based on the fact that they were trying to connect this Abraham to the Abraham descendant of Thomas of Essex, Virginia. Brandy says, I saw it. Okay. So, this line does not connect back to Essex, Virginia. That is a completely different family line. And, so the Abraham cluster that matches George are descendants of Richard over here. And they do not go back to the Essex thing. So everything, this all originates in Caswell, North Carolina. So the thing about Reverend Richard was, I'm going to go into this. He, do I want to show the, okay, let's do Reverend Richard here. So, because I think I have most of my data on the website. Let me open that up real quick. So Reverend Richard was born in England, in York, England, and he was the son of Richard and Lydia. And then he went to Dublin, Ireland. The whole family was kind of in between, back and forth between Dublin and County Carlow and England. So he ended up going to Trinity College. He became a reverend, and then he was sent to the Bahamas, where he was a minister there. And in 1745, he was sent to South Carolina. So he came to, he immigrated in 1745, and then the first record we have is that he arrived at St. Helena's in 1747. So I don't know where he was within this 2-year group, unless he was just studying under somebody else, and then here he became an official minister for them. And Alice is here too. She closed the chat window by mistake. Okay. So then we have some letters written back and forth regarding Richard, and at some point he gets sick, and he ends up taking a break from being a minister, and then he decides he gets sick, and the doctor recommends that he goes and he gets air from somewhere else, so his lungs will, he lost his voice, and he must pass the winter in colder climate. And can you guys see this screen okay, or do you want me to make it bigger? I can probably do that. Oh, it is at 90. Okay, hopefully that's making it a little easier to read. And so then he doesn't really seem to like being a minister or a reverend, is kind of what I grasped from some of these letters. And then he decides he's going to leave, and he ends up going to Ireland and marrying Elizabeth Bryan in 1754. And then when he returns, he apparently goes to Caswell, North Carolina. So he ends up going to North Carolina after he got married. And that's where all these kids were born. So all of this needs to be updated to Caswell. The Essex, Virginia stuff, like I have here, I still need to fix this record. This is all based on them linking George to that Thomas in Essex, Virginia. And it is pure fiction. The family that they're all trying to connect these to, it was a real family. They descend from Thomas of Essex, Virginia, but Thomas is the brother of Matthias St. John, and they have an entirely different Y-DNA. They're the St. John's of highlight. So all these children here were born in almost certainly Caswell, North Carolina. And then Richard shows up in the Caswell records, and here he is in 1801 with his son James. And then by 1802, he is listed as an insolvent, and I'm wondering if he became bankrupt or he died around this time. I'm not really sure why this record was created. If it was indicating that these were, bankrupt loans or whatever, or if they were declared insolvent at the time of their death. But anyway, after 1802, either he left, or there were no more records created for him, or he died. And he was 86 years old by this point, so it's very possible that, he died somewhere around here. So I went ahead and put that he died about 1802, but I have not found any evidence of that. And so listed as an insolvent 1802, and an incapacity to pay debt, bankrupt, or liabilities exceeded assets. And so then, we pick up his son James, is James C. St. John of Caswell, North Carolina. We can have George is already left by then. Captain William is already left by then because he went to Franklin. George apparently went to Woodbury, Tennessee. And then I think Abraham stayed in Caswell. And then, so James was probably the next oldest. I'm not quite sure. And then we have Richard married Martha Wisdom. And let's see what else. We have the likely daughter, Evelyn. Who died in Canyon? That's my ancestors' county. George did. So George died in Canyon. So most likely your line does come from George. And I forgot to look up my emails on your line, Brandy. So I will definitely do that and try to figure out where you probably fit. But it would be really helpful if you would do the Ancestry DNA test, because that's going to be the quickest way to figure out where you fit. Because it will take you at least, to your 5th great grandfather, and that should get you back to somebody in this branch if you fit here. And let's see what else. So I'm still working all that out on Ancestry. Let's see. So I've started with Richard. And what I've done is I've created some tags here because I'm tired of cluttering up the name groups over here. So I created some tags, and I'm doing this for the test subjects. So basically a through lines match, excuse me, and then I'm putting the person's initials. And then I have Richard here as a through lines verified Merca, which is most recent common ancestor for the group of people that I'm working on. And then I'm adding the Y-DNA test kits. So we have RCS, and then we have JFS. And then I'm tagging the descendant lines going all the way down. And then I make the grandfather, the father, and the test subject private. And let's see what else. Y-DNA verified Merca. Okay, so what I did was 2 different things. I have a through lines Merca, and then I also have the Y-DNA verified Merca. And that's to show that we have alignment between Ancestry DNA and we have alignment with FTDNA's Y-DNA's data. Hopefully that makes sense. So I've been filling this out, trying to get this as complete as possible, and documenting the son. So what I have here is Jacob, the son. He needs to be researched because some people have Jacob as the son of the duplicate Abraham. And I think Jacob fits here better as a son rather than that duplicated Abraham. And then also I have matches that are claiming Frankie Murray, and then the other ones are claiming Dicey Harris, and they're all falling in together. So we need to get those trees cleaned up and have one generation of Abraham as the son of Richard. The other Abraham they're trying to link up to is the Essex line, and that needs to be abandoned completely. But right now I have both Abrahams in here because, like I said, I've got matches that are showing up under both. And until they fix their trees, I don't know which one is the correct. I don't know if there were 2 Mary Harris, Dicey Harris generations, or if that's a duplication and the actual wife is Frankie Murray. So that's what I'm still trying to work out. Some are falling under Frankie, some are falling under Mary, but they're showing up as siblings, so they might be half siblings. And if that's the case, then Abraham married both women, and that's why they're showing up as half siblings. So that's a possibility too. And then we have James C., and then his son was also James C., so there's quite a few here. And again, this is also confusing because some people have James C. as the father of Abraham, so I'm still trying to work that out. I think the quickest way that I can sort this is if everybody deletes their 3rd, 4th, and 5th great grandfathers out of their trees. That might be the quickest way, because then Ancestry can suggest ancestors for you, and maybe that will sort it out. I do know that Ancestry is already pushing this tree that I created, so I thought that was pretty positive in suggestions and hints. And then we have Evelyn here. And we don't know. I mean, I'm assuming Evelyn only had the 2 children, and the only one was surviving was John. So if everybody fixes their tree and makes Evelyn a daughter of Richard, then those matches should start to line up also. Um, does anybody have any questions? And I'm still waiting on Y-DNA results for the Captain Samuel Matthew brother ongoing saga. And okay, that's the same question. Let's see what else. I think that one, yeah, that's the Barton SMP. That's the, that's Alice and Jeff's SMP. And then, let's see if I have anything else. Oh, it's Clater, not Clayton. Clater and Clayton and Jones are the ones that we need to watch for that group. That's the Abner, Martin, and George St. John is a St. John, not a Markham. Okay, George St. John is a Deport St. John. Oh, that's what I was going to show you guys. The lineage. Okay. So George is a Deport St. John, and his son John is a Markham, and that is not really his son, it is his nephew. He apparently raised his sister's son as a St. John. That's the John line. And then through Thomas, we know, through George's son Thomas, we know that George was a Deport St. John, and he is the son of Reverend Richard, because they're all the matches are falling under Reverend Richard, even if people still have their trees linked to John Isaac and Elizabeth George or whatever, Patsy George, whatever her name was. They're fiction. They don't exist. But when you look at the matches that were falling under them, or when I looked at them, because I have the DNA data, the Y-DNA data, I could see that those actually were Y-DNA results back to Reverend Richard. So the problem is that everybody needs to delete John Isaac and Patsy George out of their tree. They need to connect George to Reverend Richard, and then Reverend Richard's lineage goes back to, if I can get this to open, Walter of Lydiard Chagos, the 3rd Baronet of Battersea. I think that's how you say that. And his wife, his son John, married Sarah Oliver, and these are the ones that, through their kids, started going into Dublin, Ireland. And what's really interesting is this is the son of John and Lucy Hungerford, or Leighton, and then they're the son of John and Lucy Hungerford. So this group right here were responsible for colonialism, and they were the ones running around with the St. John's a highlight, and so they were all involved in colonialism in America and Ireland and Africa, and let's see where else, the West Indies. And so that's why we're seeing these pop up everywhere. We're having all these DNA results. Brandy, it is super confusing. Yes, it's very confusing because the older group of genealogists, they connected George back to Thomas of Essex. And so all of these trees, in one way or another, was trying to make that fit. And they were all trying to make it fit in different ways. If you hear my cat, she's trashing a box right now. I'm not sure if you can hear her. But she wants my attention, and so she's trying to get it by tearing up a box. So anyway, to make this less confusing, I created this tree called George St. John and Nancy Bryan. I put a link to it in the newsletter. And if everybody will make their tree match this one, at least back to Richard, you don't have to put all the sibling groups in. It'd probably be best if you don't put the sibling groups in, because I'm still working them out. But if you at least take your ancestor back to Richard, or delete your 3rd, 4th, and 5th great grandparents from your tree, and we'll let through lines work it out, and that will give me more time to refine this. But right now, so many trees are conflicting with each other that I cannot confidently fix this right now. Like, I know for a fact that people that are claiming this line and this line are the same line, but I can't figure out how they're the same line. And the most logical is the Abraham second generation goes back to Essex. That one needs to be abandoned. Either there were Mary Harris and Dicey Harris were somehow converted into two people, or Abraham had two wives, and one was Frankie Murray and the other one was Mary Harris. So that's what I have to still work out. So, any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to end this and keep working at it, and we'll pick it up again. I'm still waiting on DNA results for the Big Y upgrades to talk about the Captain Samuel line. And I'm going to finish this diagram and publish that for you guys. And that will help too, because then you'll know exactly your whole entire DePort St. John lineage. So what that's going to look like as a PDF when it's done. So that's what I will do, finish today. I may not finish out these sun branches, and I'll just make a second version when I have them figured out. And that way I can publish this and you guys can all see where you're fitting and then where your haplogroups are and why you should update your tree now, your ancestry tree, so that we can get them all matching this. And then once they all match this, Ancestry Through Line should be able to do its magic and show all the cousin relationships and stuff. My tree only goes back to my third great-grandfather, Arthur Columbus. Okay, perfect. So what I will do is I will go back to my emails with you, Brandy, and I will try to see if I can figure out where that connects. But until you DNA test, we're not going to be able to know if it's going to go further back. So what will happen if you Ancestry DNA test, and they're on sale right now for $34, so I highly recommend picking up an Ancestry DNA test this week. I think there's like 4 more days. I think it expires on the 18th. But Ancestry Through Lines, if you DNA test, it will suggest back to your 5th great-grandparents. So if you were to link your DNA to your tree, then it's going to predict who your 4th and 5th great-grandparents are. And that most likely will take you back to George and George's father, Richard. Does that make sense? Okay, so if there are no other questions, I'm going to end it here. I'm going to wait a few seconds. Please, please, please do so, Brandy. Yes, absolutely. Because you may be the only person representing that line, Brandy, and the only way to know for sure where he fits is to DNA test. And I'm going to finish this Visio diagram. I'm going to publish it to the Facebook group, and I will attach it to next week's newsletter, and I will publish it in the Facebook, I'll put it as a media to Reverend Richard, and I'll attach it to George, and I'll put it through all of them, and I'll put it in the media here, and that way everybody can access it, and hopefully people that see this at Ancestry will fix their trees. That might be the quickest way to get them to fix their trees. Okay, you're going to do it. Thank you, Brandy. That will be awesome. Absolutely. Because that will solve, you won't have to guess anymore. It's going to automatically tell you if you fit this group or not. And it may be the data point we're missing to help fix some other trees and things too. So with that, I'm going to leave it until next week. I'm really hoping that next week I can talk about the Captain Samuel Big Y results, but we've been waiting. They're about 22 weeks behind now, apparently, so I'm not sure when we're going to get those results. So anyway, if there are any questions, I will take them now. Otherwise, I'm going to switch the screen, and then I'm just going to stay on here for a few. And if you have questions, ask. You're welcome, Brandy. So if anybody has any questions that's still listening, I'm still here. If you want to take off, you can take off, and when the room closes, I will close the live. How's that? Okay, Alice, good luck with laundry. I don't envy that. So anyway, yeah, I will finish that diagram and post it to the Facebook group, and I will post it to the tree for George and his father. You're welcome. See you guys all next week if you come back. Thanks for showing up today. I'm gonna go ahead and end the broadcast now.